presidency, our good old General George Washington has also spread his tent and lives amongst us.
Through the entire war, Washington will see his Virginia home of Mount Vernon for only a few days. The fighting grinds on. Washington and his men struggle through blistering heat and bitter cold. The general vows that he will share in the hardship and partake of every inconvenience. Admirers in Europe and America see a general whose Republican ideals keep him in the tented field with his army. But Washington is also a man of his time, a champion of liberty who is also a slaveholder. William Lee, his valet, is one of hundreds of thousands of African Americans held in bondage in this emerging nation. But the soldiers of African descent, both free and enslaved, who enlist in Washington's army, challenge his ideas about slavery through the example of their patriotism. Their fight for freedom will continue long after this war. But there's another side of Washington's war that few see. Even when houses or taverns are used as temporary headquarters, Washington's tent serves as his private office. Here he sits alone, reading and writing the letters that mark the highest and lowest moments of the war, moments of frustration, uncertainty, doubt.
I am convinced beyond a doubt that unless some great and capital change suddenly takes place, this army must inevitably starve, dissolve, or disperse in order to obtain
6 years into the struggle, he confesses
that we are at the end of our tether. Now or never, our deliverance must come.
That moment comes in 1781, a remarkable opportunity to trap a large British force against the sea. American and French troops converge on Yorktown, Virginia. Soldiers wield picks and shovels and drag heavy guns into position for a siege. Washington puts the first shovel in the ground, fires the first cannon, and lives for weeks in his tent amidst his army as menacing trails of enemy fire arc through the sky. The British surrender. The defeat shakes British resolve to continue the war. Though fighting continues for 2 more years, America finally secures independence in 1783. The Treaty of Paris brings an end to the war. But the young republic has other dangers to face from within. Revolutions usually end in disaster. Armies refuse to disband. Generals become dictators. What will happen this time? In 1775, Washington reminded his countrymen as they went to war, when we assumed the soldier, we did not lay aside the citizen. 8 years later, the Continental Army is unpaid and disgruntled. Officers at Newburgh, New York, curse Congress and speak of making Washington ruler, even a king. An astonished commander-in-chief confronts them.
I have never left your side one moment. I have been a constant companion and witness to your distresses. I have not only grown gray, but almost blind in the service of my country.
Tears roll down the cheeks of men who have charged into the mouths of cannon. He has lived among them. He has shared their hardship. Now they must lay aside the soldier and become citizens again. By reminding them of the cause that kept them together in the tented field, Washington saves the Republic. It is time to go home. Washington resigns his commission and sets out for Mount Vernon. He arrives on Christmas Eve, 1783. Likened to the ancient general who vanquished enemies of the Roman Republic and then returned to his farm, Washington is called the American Cincinnatus. He is the natural choice for the first president of the American Republic. After just 2 terms, Washington steps down, again handing power back to the people. After his death 2 years later, such acts inspire a friend and fellow patriot to remember Washington as first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Washington's tent, his uniforms and military equipment, carefully packed away after the war, become treasures. By 1861, the tent has been passed down to Martha Washington's great-granddaughter, Mary Custis Lee, the wife of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Civil war tears the nation apart over the momentous question that Washington's generation failed to answer. Do the words, "all men are created equal," apply to all people? Once again, Washington's tent is witness to war. Union troops occupy Arlington, the Lees' home. When Mrs. Lee and her children flee, Selina Gray, an enslaved woman, is left as caretaker of Arlington and the Washington relics, including the tent. Again, the tent becomes a symbol when it is removed from Arlington and officials place it on exhibit in the nation, claiming the mantle of George Washington for the Union cause. The war ends. Decades pass. The tent is finally returned to the Lee family, who sell it to raise money for the care of Confederate widows.